If you just graduated and you don't know what's next, you don't know where you want to go next, if you should do a gap year, if you should study, then this video is for you. Personally, I have taken 2 gap years after graduating and before going to university. So this is my advice as someone who has taken 2 gap years, and everything I've learned, everything that I feel like you should be aware of when taking a gap year, and also benefits I have seen compared to people that I know that went to university, and vice versa, the benefits of university instead of a gap year. Okay, so my first point of the benefits of a gap year is simply that you finally get to discover yourself as who you truly are outside of a system, outside of school, outside of the life that you've been so used to every single day, going to the same place, same people, same environment, same type of daily routine. And now suddenly you got all the time to do whatever you want. And that time is so valuable to truly understand who you are as a person and what you want to do, who you want to be. Outside of the expectations of society, of school systems, of your parents, gap years are such a beneficial time to use, for example, for skills that were never taught in school. Simple things like sales, business, finances, content creation, networking, investing, all of that stuff. But it all depends on how you want to use that time and what you want to learn. But you get that free time to invest it into growing your knowledge and your skills. Number 4 is that you can literally gain real world experience, especially if you work somewhere. You get to see how the work life is instead of studying for years and only then experiencing what it's like to actually work. And it also allows you to have the freedom to already try and work in the industry that you actually that associates with the thing that you wanted to potentially study, and see if that's really an industry you want to work in the future, and also a field that you want to study. Number 5 is one of the main things that was also one of my reasons, is that after graduating, after all that stress of passing the finals and just living in constant deadlines and exams and evaluations of the school system, you finally get to completely reset mentally. That free time where you're not tied to specific structures and routines, you get time to just sit with yourself and truly discover what's going on inside, what emotions and feelings or thoughts are within you, and actually process and heal. So a big thing for me was that a gap year literally helped me clear my mind and heal so many things mentally, and just feel so much fresher as a person in my mind. You also get the chance to learn independence because you are not dependent on anything or anyone. Most likely, I mean, at least your time and how you use it is solely dependent on you and how you want to spend it. And thus, here it is so essential to learn how to build your own structure so you're not just sitting around doing nothing. Of course, time management is also something you learn in university, but I think there is a difference, obviously. And the distinct difference is that in one scenario where you're in university or studying in general, you are literally in a system where you don't have a choice but to have a structure. Like, there's already a structure in place and you need to adjust your own way to it. And then there's the gap year where you don't have any structure and you got all the time in the world, right? That's technically what it feels like, but at the end of the day, the time goes by really fast. So you either use it smartly with a structure or you waste it. But that's also something that you just learn through the year. Like, it doesn't come immediately, or it might start off with a great structure and then that structure might fall away just because you quickly got a bit distracted, let's say through your phone, and then you have to rebuild that structure again because there is absolutely no structure in place unless you put it there. Number 7 is you can explore different paths without committing. And this has many different ways that you can do that. You can either visit universities, sit in lectures, just quickly see, do you like it, do you not like it as much. You can research on your own, you can watch videos, you can Google, you can read studies in that field that you're interested in or potentially are interested in. See how you feel about it. See if it actually makes you feel extremely passionate and interested in that field, or not. All in all, I do think a gap year gives you the opportunity to truly know who you are outside of expectations of whoever, and you just truly look inwards and see where your interests lie, what you're passionate about, and also learn so many skills that are not taught in school. That's just how it is, but you get that opportunity. If you want to use it or not, that's up to you, but I think this is one of the most valuable things that a gap year can give you. Now, here are the things that I want you to be aware of before deciding on a gap year, because of course there's benefits, but there's always also going to be contras, risks, whatever you want to call it. So the first thing is that a gap year is just going to magnify who you really are. So if you're extremely disciplined, it's going to show. If you're lazy, it's going to show. Now, does that mean that you should be worried if you're not that structured as a person, not well organized, and just simply often notice that you procrastinate? No, you should not worry about that, because it teaches you and it shows you that, like, literally, if you put in time, build a structure, and stay disciplined and committed, you will grow and you will feel so much better and you will see so many amazing things happen in your life. And if you just don't do that, then you'll notice. You'll notice how time just gets wasted. And if that's not going to be a motivating driver for you to actually get your ass up and do something, then yeah, maybe a gap year is not for you. But if you're willing to grow, if you're willing to become the best version of yourself, but you may not feel that yet, you feel like you're maybe not the best version of yourself yet, then a gap year is the perfect opportunity to become that version of yourself. Number 2 is freedom sounds amazing until you have too much of it. What do I mean by that? A lot of the times, people that are constantly, rushing from work to school to this to that, they constantly feel like they have no time for themselves. They are always jealous of the people that they see with so much freedom. However, the people with so much freedom, thus, for example, people in gap years, they actually struggle with the fact that they have so much freedom that you can get lost in it. And that is normal. You might feel lost at some point in your gap year just because you absolutely have no structure. And that to your system is not normal, because you were used to a structure for basically most of your life. And suddenly you don't have a structure basically at all unless you create one. And you constantly will notice that you will need to be creating more and more structures just because you're going to be changing as a person. The things you're going to pursue and do are going to change. And you're constantly going to have to upgrade yourself just because you're constantly growing. So that one structure that you might have had in the beginning of your gap year won't be the same at the end of it. So of course, these in-between phases where you need to upgrade your structure or change something about it, you're gonna feel a bit lost. You're gonna feel a bit like you don't know what exactly to do, and you can literally get lost in the freedom that you get. Another big thing that you're gonna be confronted with in your gap year is social media or scrolling or phone addiction, whatever you want to call it. Especially the generations that are graduating now, the younger generations, but also the generations that have graduated a couple of years ago. Honestly, every single generation that has a phone and uses it can say that they definitely have once or are still struggling with this addiction. Now, not everyone labels it as an addiction, but it's very clearly a dopamine spike addiction. We are addicted to these quick dopamine rushes that scrolling gives us, and it honestly also destroys our attention span and so many other things. get affected by this. So one of the things that you will have to learn and grow out of and limit yourself with is this. If you ask me, I think this is one of the biggest dangers with a gap year, because everyone is struggling with it, and this is such an easy way out to use your time in that way. And people do it even when they're busy. The only time they do get for themselves, they still end up being on their phone and scrolling. But especially in your gap year, when you have so much time, it's so easy to waste it with the phone. So how do you fix that? In your gap year, you will realize the busier you get, the less time you will have to just sit around and be on your phone. So the more hobbies you pick and commit to, the more things you have in your day-to-day life, whether it is work or whether you travel or whether you spend your time with specific people, the more you distract yourself with life, basically, the less you'll have the tendency to grab that phone and scroll. So get busy is my advice. Another thing that I feel like a lot of people struggle with deciding on whether they should take a gap year or not is their parents' opinion, especially when those are parents that grew up where in a structure where immediately after graduating you pick university, and it's not like they know at all what a gap year really is and what benefits it can actually give a person. And those types of parents tend to think that their child will literally waste their time. Now, if that is your parents, then trust me, I was in that place as well. But my advice to you would be simply to just, first of all, show them how you will spend your time, and then also stick to that. Like, actually do what you said you would do. Show them that you're not actually wasting your time and you're actually building and growing and becoming a better version of yourself, especially in ways that, for example, university could not give that to you. For example, like I said, building all of these different skills that I mentioned in the beginning that are essential life skills. At the end of the day, you have to realize that this is your life, and also your parents will have to realize that this is your life and the way you choose to live your life, especially now that you are an adult. You get to decide how you want to live your life. And if you waste it, like, technically that's your problem, not theirs, right? But parents always feel like it's up to them to decide or to help their child succeed. But everyone is living life for the first time, and honestly, just explore around, do what you feel like doing, and try not to live up to other people's expectations, especially your parents's. Because remember, they also grew up in a completely different era. It could be that literally they grew up in a place where if you don't go to university, you don't have a chance of having an opportunity of having a stable life. But now the world has changed in many, many ways, and university is not the only way to be successful anymore, not the way it was in the past. So while parents may not understand their children's decision, they will at a certain point realize that it was actually for their best good. Another point is that you can really easily accidentally waste months. A week turns to a month really quickly, especially when you don't have a structure and you're not being productive. But one thing that also helped me was, even when I was productive, in the week I did so much, I still felt like I wasn't doing enough, and I felt very unproductive. So I started writing down the things I actually achieved that week, so that by the end of the week I can look at it and I can actually acknowledge that I am moving forward and I am growing and I'm getting stuff done. You need structure. That's the next thing that I've also mentioned multiple times now, but without it, you will not make the gap year a productive year. And a gap year can be one of the most transformative and insane years of your life. I'm not joking when I'm saying this, but that solely depends on you. Now, I'm not trying to put you under pressure because that's not how you should feel. But I do want to tell you about that so you're aware of it. I also think that if you're afraid of it, then it's not actually that you shouldn't be doing it. It's more that this is actually an area within you that has potential for growth. Especially, I think fear is actually a compass for where you have the opportunity to grow. So if you're scared that you're going to waste time, then this is the perfect opportunity for you to learn how to not waste it. Another point is that I've already kind of mentioned, but you may feel behind even when you're not. And a big thing about a gap year is that things that you do will compound over time, but may not immediately give you that those results that you might have, expected from what you're doing. And compared to the school system, where when you put in work, you got your grade, whether it was a project, an exam, whatever, you were evaluated and you got that validation of your work immediately. But in a gap year, a lot of work that is done is internal work that is not visible immediately, especially. It's only visible when you look back and you think, oh my God, a year ago me was completely different. And also things like the things you put in your time into, those things can compound over the years, but may not give you immediate results. And that is something that you should be aware of and not get demotivated by just because you're not seeing immediate results. Because basically the school structure taught you to immediately want to see the validation for your work through results, through grades, through teachers' opinions and whatever they told you. Another big thing that I want you to know is that motivation during your gap year will come and go. There will be months where you will feel very demotivated and months where so much motivation hits you and you start grinding and working and doing all these things, and then suddenly it may disappear. And that is why you should not depend on your motivation each day, but more so build a structure that you're going to commit to and be disciplined in, so that you constantly know that you're progressing, you're being productive, no matter if there is motivation within or not. Because at the end of the day, motivation is a thing that really depends on so many different factors. And if you're always going to depend on motivation, you're going to realize that it's going to be way harder to progress. All in all, to summarize, I think a gap year is made for you if you are a person who's curious about getting to know themselves, curious about what they want in their life, curious about what are their passions, what are their goals. And you don't need to have it figured out before doing a gap year. I started my gap year with completely different shift of goals because I was going through a breakup. So for me, I was planning to first spend my gap year traveling with my, at that time, boyfriend. And then suddenly, I was not in a relationship anymore and I had all this time, no passions, no goals, no nothing. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And suddenly I built a whole life for myself. And now I know exactly what I want to do with my life. But you need to be open to discovering yourself. You need to have a drive within you to figure these things out for yourself. And it may feel confusing in the beginning, and that is okay and normal. But you need to have that inner motivation to do so. You need to be curious, to want to discover yourself more. This is also for people who do not know exactly what they want to study. And even if you're leaning into something, but you're not 100% sure about it yet, then I do think a gap year can literally change your whole perspective and make you sure about a very specific thing. Another thing is that if you truly know what you're passionate about, if you truly know that by the end of your life you want to be a doctor, right? You want to work as a doctor, then go study medicine, do your thing, because this may be for you, right? This may literally be what you came here to do. But if you feel like, okay, I have a little bit of interest in medicine, but you know, I also like a little bit of math, I like a little bit of this, I like a little bit of that. You're not quite sure yet. There's so many different areas you're interested in, or there may be no areas at all that you're interested in and you're not sure at all. This is literally just for people who do not have any certainty with the decision. I think as soon as you have certainty that you want to study something, you will study it. But most of the time, people are confused. People are not sure. People are probably overthinking, also basing their decision off of other people and what society is telling them is the right path to take because that's going to be the path that's going to make you successful. Then this is literally for you. A gap year is for you to discover yourself, to discover your passion, your goals, what you want in your life, and to truly get to know yourself outside of school, outside of that day-to-day routine of going to school, being around all these people that you were so used to, going to the same class, or like different classes but in the same school. You know, just discovering yourself beyond that system that you lived in for so many years is going to change your life. I hope this helped the right people, and if you have any questions, make sure to just comment and I will be making sure to try to answer to as many as I can. And if you're interested in seeing more videos on self-development, self-discovery, figuring out what your passions are, healing, and a lot of other things, then this channel may be for you. And make sure you check out all my other videos and subscribe if you want to see more.